Alright guys, we got the 1.6 meter Sunbird here that was crashed as a result of a wing collapse in the last video. And so now I'm in the point now where I get to go ahead and try to resolve this. I don't really suspect it's going to be a super hard thing to get back up in the air. So what I was going to do is I was just going to kind of show you the process I go through when I have a situation like this. Basically, if you're careful about picking pieces up, most of the time it's not a super huge deal to fix stuff like this. I know it seems like it's daunting to fix a balsa aircraft that's been crashed like this, but I've actually found it to be fairly easy a lot of times. This is a medium thickness CA and kicker. We're just going to see if we can get this thing back to where it needs to be. Now, keeping in mind that this particular aircraft I wanted to add flaps to anyway, and LEDs. I don't know if I'm going to add LEDs and flaps or not, but when I go to fix this, that's going to be one of the considerations, is whether or not I want to try to get flaps going. Okay, so got a new tip on this because it was driving me nuts having to fix that constantly. You can see where this wood broke. So just going to go in here and glue wherever it was before. We're just going to take and push it back into place. Sometimes it helps to dry fit it if you're in any doubt. And then what you can do is, this stuff is a medium CA. You can go in there and just kind of put a little bit of glue on the surface, and in my case just a little bit there. And then what you'll do is you'll take and just give it a spritz of the kicker. And that's one part that's fixed. It's going to set up for a second. Now this is going to be a little bit more complex because it yanked out a bolt head. Now I don't know, I'd like to not have to redo that. So obviously we want to make sure it's nice and sturdy when we're done. So it looks like this is going to go down here, and then this needs to be folded back into where this was, right there, and then this wraps over the top. It looks like we got a little piece here that came off, and it's kind of like putting a puzzle together that's challenging, but I'm not 100% sure where that goes. So what we're going to do is we're going to reverse engineer this by getting some glue where we need it, and then we're going to put it together. So we're going to just puddle it a little bit down there and run it along the edge. Now once you get it together to where it's more or less into one piece, then you can start reinforcing it again, or you can take it all apart and do it proper. And when I say proper, I mean, yeah, you could actually sit there and rebuild the whole frame, but I just don't have time for that crap. I am going to put some glue around that stuff, which is going to make it difficult to take apart if we ever have to. But hopefully we're not going to be taking this apart. We'll be just letting it be together now. Okay, so now we're just running a little bit of CA down in the crack, running it across, just tipping the plane so that it spreads to where we want it. Okay, so it's spread nicely in this little joint here. We're going to get some glue. We're just going to let it run where it needs to run. We're going to take those fragments and actually put that into the glue intentionally. And remember, once it's crashed, it's never going to be quite as pretty as it was, unless you really spend some major time on it. Okay, so we have some wood that's actually applied to the backside of that mono coat there. So now you'll notice, guys, look at that. I'm not saying it's rock solid, but it's probably more solid than it was before. Okay, so now I just need to determine if this sits on top, or if that splits the difference, or how exactly this joint sits here. Okay, so you can see, oh, it sits on the inside. Okay, so this will wrap under, and it's going to collapse onto that portion there. So what I need to do is I need to glue into the spots where it's going to actually touch again. And then as I rotate it, you're going to have good adhesion and good bond where it needs to be bonded well. Okay, so you can kind of see where I'm doing this. Just getting the glue where it needs to be. Now this doesn't need to be perfect. You'll be able to apply a little bit more later, and you can always flip it inside out and do it a little later too. Okay, so now we're going to take and tip this in. You got to work fairly quick once you get this going, because that CA is going to kick. It's going to set up quick because there's some kicker in there. Okay, so it's already in one piece. And then we're going to take and we're just going to run over the top. Now again, if you really cared, you could take a sandpaper. You could take sandpaper, sand block. You could actually sit there and sand the CA down when you're done. You could take an X-Acto knife and carve off a chunk of this monocoat, and you could remonocoat it. I do not care about that. I care about having a solid structure. And if you go back to the original design of this plane, you know, this thing was never solid. It was always glued together anyway. Okay, so we're just going over the joints again. Again, this is medium gap filling glue, and it is extremely strong when it's set up. The more reinforcement you put into the material, the stronger it's going to be. See how nice that works with a brand new tip? So much better. Okay, so the nose, believe it or not, is probably stronger than it was. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to show you guys something. I got these FMS blades when my MOA threw its prop the other day and knocked the canopy off, so I replaced the MOA props. But then I was thinking, this is a 9.5 compared to the 9.5. What is this one? This one's 9.575, so it's a little bit steeper. But I was thinking about this just for looks, and also because the way this goes back, it, I don't know. I'm just not sure it looks as good as I want it to. With this folding prop like this, I think that that would look really cool on there. But anyway, I was just thinking about that because this is from the Consendo. Some of the glue ran down. That's one bad thing about that. Just be careful it doesn't run down into your motor bearings at all. But that's one thing I was thinking about doing, is putting this other prop on here, because I had near unlimited vertical with these props, so then I can preserve those for my Consendo, which is still flying, by the way. And then I get that cool look here with the real limited cost. It's only, I think it was like $6.50 for these. Then of course I was shipping another set of them. Okay, so now that little chunk come out from somewhere, and I'm not 100% sure where it come from. I'm going to take and run some more of this CA inside of here. We're going to take and just drip it right onto the bottom and just let it run back and forth a little bit. And then we're going to go in there right next to where the motor bearing is, so we got to be careful this time. Just going to go up over that screw. We're just going to let that glue run, and I'm going to tip the fuselage back and forth like this. And then I'm going to run some kicker in there. And that's all you got to do. That'll set it up more or less in the puddles that you put it in. Okay? So now, this side's been covered up, it's sealed. This gap is not totally filled. If you have a big gap like that that's giving you trouble, one tip, doesn't always work great, but it's usually fine. Of course, you can use some balsa wood, but I'm going to opt to grab a chunk of cotton here, which works real nice. And what we're going to do is we're just going to stuff that in there. I got to get a tool to push it in with. Use a screwdriver if you don't have any of these fancy tools here. This is actually a soldering tool. Okay, so you see I'm just going to force this into the opening. And all that does is it holds the gap filling CA. Okay, now that stuff will smooth over just fine. Okay, so you grab your CA, give it a couple drips until it saturates. And it will saturate, guys. Lick your finger, spread it. Okay? Give it some kicker, done. And then that's going to help to encourage that gap to get filled. And you won't have to use quite as much material. In terms of material, I mean glue. Because the glue is expensive and it's kind of heavy over time. It'll add up. Okay, so that's sitting over the top just to get it flush. Just like that. Just run the glue. Let the drip work its way through the fiber. And just control it like that. Give it a kicker. Kiss kicker. Lick your finger. Spread it if it's needed. It's very hot right now. That's because it's chemically reacting, which is good. Okay, so that's that. Now, on the bottom, we had that spot where the glue had seeped through a crack. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and glue that up. And we'll probably go ahead and do the cotton trick again on this. This is just going to make sure that we don't have a void without having some backing. The backing, of course, being the cotton, is going to help to maintain the glue in position until it can set. So you just use the side of this tool to force that in. It doesn't need to be filling the whole gap. It just needs to fill enough to bridge from left to right, or front to back. In this case, front to back. And once you put the CA on there, the CA is actually what's going to give you the strength. It's very easy. Get into the thickest point if you can with the CA first so it can wick throughout the material. And it almost turns clear too. This works really nice on foam planes as well, but obviously the best method for a lick your finger, spread it, make sure it's smooth. When you're done, you can use acetone to take off any material that's left on your fingertips, unless you'd like to have that come off. The next time you take a shower, you'll get this stuff will come off in the soap, and it's really annoying because it's sharp. Okay, so that chunk of wood is rough. I might take and sand that down just a hair. So let's grab a sanding block here. So we got a little sanding block. Just take off the sharp edge. Okay, so a little bit of a sharp edge up. Okay, so now guys, look. Stronger than it was before. Now, what else broke on this plane? The tail broke. Let's see if the canopy still works. It's fighting going on because we have a little bit more thickness with the glue. Particularly this monocoat bunched up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick that off of there. But I got to get the cap on my glue. We're going to use an X-Acto knife to take care of this portion. Sharp X-Acto knife. Okay, we're going to take the X-Acto knife. We're just going to cut along here. And then that's going to release the portion that's been screwed up. That's sharp right there, that glue that dripped down. So now I'm going to take the blade and I'm going to run it the other direction. Okay, so let's take that out. Then let's see if it fits. Oh yeah, she's fitting good now. No play. Works good. Alright, cool. So now the next step, let's go ahead and fix the tail. I guess we're not going to put that part back in. I'm guessing that part, it's possible that part came off of here. Let's just double check we don't see anything obvious. Don't think it came off there. It might have been from right up under here on the lip of this canopy. Nah, I don't care where it came from. It doesn't really matter. I think it might have also, it's possible it was on the back side of this. I really don't care. I'm just going to put it aside. Okay, so the tail. Let's talk about how we're going to fix the tail. Let's get this material out of the way. That's good stuff. It's going to get used again. These are tools. Alright, so how did this break? It broke here when it hit the ground. I don't think it broke the actual elevator, just broke the stabilizer, which is weird. Now, a couple ways we could double check that. One way would be to grab a very stronger flashlight. See if we can see through the monocoat. Not going to get enough visibility through that, unfortunately. Now, there's 2 or 3 different ways you can do this. The first way is preferred, and that would be to go ahead and heat up the monocoat and just peel it back. Take it off of here. I don't want to waste that much time, because as much as I like this plane had structural deficiencies that I don't really care to waste my time looking at. So I'm going to show you the trick of the day You might have noticed the moral of the story on this is to fix it quick, because I don't want to waste a bunch of my life on it. Which sounds funny, because I waste like tons of time on other crap that's not important. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this. I'm going to open up a small hole with the X-Acto knife, okay? I know you know where I'm going with this. And I'm doing it from the top because I don't want to drip, okay? I'm going to inject some CA into this area. I'm holding the wing where I want the wing to be, the horizontal stab, okay? Okay, I put a good amount of that CA into that joint. You can actually tell from the heat and temperature of the plane how much this stuff is set up. So I'm holding it here, just past where I want it to be so that it doesn't spring back. Okay? So that feels like it's pretty close to solid now. I'm going to wipe the tip so I don't have any glue that gets stuck when I put this in here. Okay, just filling it. Wiping the tip immediately. And then that's going to set up here in just a second. Now, obviously, this is not a very weight-sensitive project. Again, if you want it to be fixed right, you're going to have to take it apart. I don't want to take it apart. Okay? So the second break point's here. This one's a little bit worse of a break. Okay? Just checking for hinge points. Looks like there may be a hinge point off to the side of the break point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hole, and I'm going to actually, this one I'm going to cut open like this, cutting an access hatch, which is just going to consist of accessing this one little broken area, okay? Now I'm going to peel this back. Okay, so there was a joint there to begin with. So this is what I'm going to do. It's going to be very simple. I'm going to glue the joint a little bit more. I'm going to let the glue go up under the monocoat, which is going to help to reinforce both sides of this. I'm going to glue right there. I'm going to glue the whole piece of wood. And regrettably, there's some glue that's seeped through on my finger, which is really annoying. Okay. Another thing too that seems kind of weird, but put a little kicker on your fingers. Doesn't always mean you're going to stick to the work. Sometimes that means that your fingers are going to cure the glue before you stick to the work, because you have oil in your hands and your skin. Okay. Alright, so you can see that's getting very solid and very hot on my index finger, which is behind it. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze a little bit more of this glue into this area. Just going to let that spread. Remember, we don't want to make this plane 100 pounds. We just want to try to fix the damage points if possible. It's not always possible to do that without gaining some weight here. We're going to gain some weight. I already know that. Okay, just going to put a little glue here. Already got glue on my fingertip. Might as well take advantage. Spreading it. Okay. Put a little bit of glue out, then suck the rest back by squeezing the bottle sideways like this. That'll clear the spout somewhat. Sometimes when you start spraying this stuff out, it'll want to keep going a little bit. Okay, then clean the tip. Gosh, I spend more time in my videos cleaning my tip than anything else. Sounds horrible, I realize. Okay, so we got flex here, but just so you know, guys, there's flex here too. I'm not real impressed with the strength yet. I feel like maybe there's another spot where we broke or we weakened, and I'm just trying to double check. I'm just grabbing the ribs and just moving them. This one still feels flexy. I'm not real fond of it. So I guess unfortunately on this one I'm going to go ahead and cut here, and I'm going to cut here, and I'm going to cut here. Okay? I'm just going to throw caution to the wind. I don't really care about the finish. I'm going to probably end up using tape to temporarily touch it up. Of course, you could use monocoat if you had the right colors. This was a plane that I didn't build myself, so of course I don't have that luxury. I could go buy some, but probably not going to do that either. Grab the monocoat. Well, that didn't come up worth a darn. I'm trying something different now. Why does this twist so much easier here? I just don't know exactly where the brake is. See how that twists, guys? Let's try and compare and contrast. It's still got flex in it. I think it's just a crappy design. It's just very thin. Okay, so in that case, what do we do to thin things? We put more glue in. And then we move on with life and prosper. Okay. Get the monocoat lifted. Put some glue in on this side of the joint. Both sides of the joint. And the front. Already got glue on the thumb and the forefinger. Let that do its magic. Make sure that it's not dripping out like crazy. I think that's going to help a lot, actually. Not perfect, but it's better. Alright, so now, real quick thought as we continue in this endeavor to make this plane right. Okay, we fixed the nose. Everything feels nice and solid now. The motor mount moves before the wood moves. That's awesome. And the only reason that broke, the only reason this broke, is because when we crashed, because the wing broke in half, that hit first. Okay? You know, I'm just wondering if maybe I just need to get a little glue up in that joint too. I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to take and more or less drill a little hole with the tip of the X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to pump some glue into that joint. It just feels like maybe that needs a little bit more reinforcement. So I'm just getting this. You can see how much I'm squeezing it. I probably put a pretty good amount in there. Now I'm going to let it run by just tipping the plane in two different directions, and then I'm going to tip it this way. And it's surprising how well that kicker will penetrate in there and start that chemical reaction. It will actually transfer through well. Because again, guys, this thing was crashed before. Oh wow, that made a big difference. Big difference. Look how much better that is. Now, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to cover this up with a fresh piece of tape. But we're going to clean it first with alcohol. Okay, great. So we've got that portion done. So we can get the alcohol down. We'll get that clean. Just a regular, like health grade alcohol is what I do for stuff like this, like you get at the pharmacy department. You can use electrical cleaning alcohol too, that's fine. I don't really care which type you like, but just get one. It'll work. Just give it a good wipe down. Remember, this monocoat is basically junk at this point anyway. So I'm just wiping it down. Give me something to have the tape stick to nicely. Rotate the paper. Okay, good. Let it dry for a second. Then we can come back over it. Now, of course, you could just use monocoat if you had it, but I'm not going to use monocoat on this because I don't. This is going to help to restore some of the strength to the wing too. Okay, piece one. Holding the wing tight, pressing it from the center out. And we're just going to wrap the nose, and then we're going to work it from the center around. Very simply. Okay, very good. Then we're going to do one more piece. And I probably should have started with the first piece, but I didn't. Sorry, guys. Hard to see that stuff on the video, I bet. if I would have started with the main body, then it would have probably given me a little bit better finish. So take it for what it's worth, guys. Okay, so now that that's taped, we're done. Stop thinking about it, it's over. Alright, so now the next thing we got to do is we got to get the wing fixed. Now the wing is going to take a little more effort, and so for the moment, I'm just going to move stuff out of the way. We're just going to double check this. Oh yeah, that feels a whole lot better. Definitely flight worthy compared to what it was. It's pretty much what it was. Okay. The other thing is, we need to, before we get this up in the air, we need to double check, triple check all the flight controls. We need to double, triple check the motor, make sure that's solid. I remember we weren't having a problem with this vibrating. That was before we replaced to the Volantex motor. The other thing is, if you wanted to touch this up just to make it look nice, real quick and dirty, you would take yourself a marker, like so, and you would take and mark it. And it's going to be a done deal. We just happen to have black monocoat, so this makes it easy for us. And that cotton stuff will cover up just fine. It'll soak up the color like nothing else. Look at that, guys. 100 foot test. Pass. Even color in the hot glue we used. Okay. Colors of CA just fine, guys. Again, not going for pretty, we're just going for I want to fly this plane again, because it is an awesome plane, and I was really annoyed when it broke. Alright, so that's done. Next up, we're going to work on the wing, and just taking note of how much time we got on the video. Probably going to be stopping the video here and going to part 2 on this. So guys, keep tuned in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, this 1.6 meter Sunbird by Hobbyking. I called it the Hawkeye initially, for obvious reasons. Those of you who know the Hawkeyes, the Iowa Hawkeyes, are gold and black or yellow and black. So anyway, that's about it, guys. Next video, we're going to be fixing this little ditty flappy wing.